Emma Harper scrolled through her notifications late at night, the glow of her laptop illuminating her quiet apartment. She had joined a military support group weeks ago, curious about stories of courage and love in faraway places. That's when she saw him, Ryan Cole. His profile photo, a smiling man in uniform standing against a desert backdrop, made her heart flutter in ways she hadn't felt in years. He messaged her first, casual, friendly, a touch of humor that drew her in immediately. They exchanged stories, confessions, dreams. He spoke of deployments, duty, and longing to find someone he could truly trust. Emma felt a connection unlike anything she had ever known. Each message felt like a lifeline, each emoji a heartbeat. Little did she know, this digital romance was a carefully crafted illusion designed to ensnare her heart from thousands of miles away. Days turned into nights filled with laughter, shared secrets, and whispered dreams. Emma found herself eagerly awaiting every ping of her phone. Ryan's messages were perfect, funny, caring, attentive. He spoke of lonely nights in far-off lands, of a future where they would meet and fall in love without barriers. Emma pictured their life together. Dinners under soft lights, walks along beaches she had never visited. A life suspended between reality and fantasy. Her friends noticed her preoccupation, but Emma waved off concerns with a smile, telling herself that hope was harmless. Yet every story Ryan shared, every subtle confession, wrapped her tighter in his invisible embrace, blurring the line between online fantasy and the life she longed for. Ryan started speaking about the future more seriously. Marriage, living together, the small rituals of daily life he hoped to share. Emma's heart swelled at the thought. Imagining a ring on her finger and letters arriving from him overseas. Each message made her feel closer to the man she thought she knew. Yet she had never met him in person. Still, the consistency of his words, the depth of his attention made doubt almost impossible. He asked questions only a caring partner would ask, noticed the smallest details about her life, and praised her intelligence and beauty. The illusion was seamless. Emma's friends watched her glow from afar, unable to pierce the bubble of hope and longing that had enveloped her. It began with minor inconsistencies. Ryan would disappear for hours without explanation. A story about deployment that didn't quite match, or messages arriving at odd times. Emma noticed them, but her heart rejected suspicion. She rationalized the gaps, convinced that love required patience and faith. Her best friend, Sophie, warned her, voice laced with concern. "Emma, maybe take a step back," she said. But Emma clutched her phone tighter, telling herself that love was never simple, that trust required courage. And in that courage, Ryan's words continued to soothe, to promise a bond stronger than the miles that separated them. The tension between hope and doubt began to weave its quiet thread through her days. Then came the first message that unsettled her, a notification from a stranger claiming to have information about Ryan. Emma froze, heart pounding, mind spinning. Was it a cruel joke? A scam? She debated ignoring it, but curiosity gnawed at her. She opened the message with trembling fingers. It was vague, but the words cut deep. He isn't who he says he is. In that instant, the world she had been constructing, the hope she had nurtured, wavered. Fear mingled with disbelief. Feared everything she believed be false. The night pressed in, heavy and silent, while Emma stared at the screen, realizing that trust and deception can sometimes be separated by a single click. Night after night, Emma and Ryan shared private confessions. He told her about battles she couldn't imagine, about nights alone in distant deserts under a star-strewn sky, and about dreams of a home he wanted to build with her. Emma's empathy intertwined with infatuation. She poured her heart out in reply, sharing stories of her childhood. The struggles at work, and moments of vulnerability she hadn't shared with anyone. With every message, he painted a picture of devotion and attentiveness so real that Emma felt their connection was unbreakable. Yet beneath the comforting words, a subtle tension lingered. The feeling that she knew less about him than she wanted, the nagging sense that reality and fantasy were beginning to blur. Ryan sent her photos, selfies from bases, sunsets over tents, landscapes from faraway countries. Every image was meticulously framed, every detail perfect. Emma studied them obsessively, memorizing each nuance as if she were collecting proof of his existence. She video called him once, a glitchy, short connection that left her craving more. She wanted to touch the life she saw on her screen, to step into the world Ryan described. Her friends noticed her obsession deepening, but Emma dismissed concern. The messages had become a lifeline, a tether, to a man who seemed to exist simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, who understood her in ways that reality often failed to do. It was a small slip. Ryan mentioned a location he hadn't told her about before, a base she couldn't find on any map. Emma paused, rereading his words. He was usually flawless in his attention to detail. A pang of doubt hit her chest. She considered asking, then dismissed it. Maybe a classified location. He couldn't share everything. But that seed of suspicion planted itself quietly, growing in her mind, a tiny shadow behind the warmth of his words. The tension between desire and doubt began to tighten around her, like a silent noose. Emma withdrew from friends and family. Conversations felt empty without the instant ping of Ryan's messages. Sophie's warnings began to sound like background noise, ignored and resented. Emma rationalized every absence, every unexplained detail. She told herself love required trust, patience, and imagination. The more she invested emotionally, the more tangled she became in Ryan's world, a world carefully designed to feel intimate, personal, and urgent. Doubt existed, but it was drowned out by desire and devotion. Her apartment became a cocoon of anticipation, her laptop a window to a man who was always just a message away, yet frighteningly unreachable. Then the message appeared again. Another notification from the stranger claiming knowledge of Ryan's. Emma hesitated, stomach tightening. Curiosity warred with fear. She opened it slowly, scanning the words. He's not a soldier. He's never left the country. Her hands trembled, heart racing. The world she had believed in, the hope, the dreams, the engagement plans, seemed to tilt precariously. The first pang of betrayal cut through her emotional cocoon, forcing her to confront a terrifying possibility. That the man she had fallen for might be nothing more than a ghost on a screen, a puppet master pulling strings from shadows. Emma sat cross-legged on her bed, phone in hand, rereading Ryan's old messages. The timelines didn't add up. Flights that conflicted, locations he claimed he'd been but could not show, subtle contradictions in his stories. Each inconsistency gnawed at her. She tried to justify them at first. Stress of deployment, poor connectivity, confidential missions. But the nagging feeling persisted. A low hum of unease that refused to be silenced. Emma's heart ached with a mix of longing and fear. Could the man she loved so deeply really be a fabrication? Could the tenderness, the laughter, the whispered dreams all be a lie? She didn't want to know. Yet, she couldn't stop looking. Emma started researching military bases, deployments, and even the details Ryan had shared about himself. She scoured social media, looking for any hint that could confirm his identity. Nothing matched. Every photo, every anecdote was unverifiable. She began documenting every inconsistency, creating spreadsheets of timelines and locations. Anxiety tightened around her chest, but so did a strange sense of determination. She couldn't ignore the evidence any longer. The man she had imagined as her fiancé might never have existed. Or worse, he was someone deliberately deceiving her. Sophie noticed Emma's obsession and pressed gently. "Emma, something isn't right," she said, eyes wary. Emma hesitated but shared her findings. The inconsistencies, the unverifiable claims, the growing doubt. Sophie listened carefully, nodding, concerned. She reminded Emma that deception online was common, that people could fabricate entire identities to manipulate emotions. Emma felt a mixture of anger and shame. Had she been so naive? Yet even as the fear gnawed at her, she still wanted to believe Ryan was real. The tension between hope and dread became unbearable. Another message arrived, this time from the stranger, more urgent. He's lying about everything. I can show proof. Emma's pulse quickened, adrenaline surging through her veins. Her rational mind fought panic, but curiosity won. She opened the link, revealing screenshots of Ryan's social media accounts. All fake, all created in the past few months. Her stomach dropped. The man she had imagined as her fiancé, the voice she had trusted in laughter and tears, was nothing more than a digital illusion, crafted to entrap her heart. Fear and grief collided. Every fond memory, every intimate moment felt tainted by deception. Emma sat in silence for hours, absorbing the truth. The room was dark, the city lights outside flickering dimly. She felt both betrayed and foolish, trapped in a mix of grief, anger, and disbelief. But amid the wreckage of trust, a tiny spark of clarity emerged. She needed to confront the lie, to reclaim her life from the illusion. Ryan's words had held power over her because she had allowed them to. Now the truth demanded her attention. Isolation had forced reflection, and reflection had forced realization. Love could be simulated, but resilience had to be real. Emma stared at the screenshots again, disbelief mingling with anger. Every photo, every post Ryan had sent had been fabricated. Fake accounts, borrowed images, copied content. The man she had fallen for was a ghost. Her chest tightened, eyes stinging as she realized the depth of the betrayal. Messages that had once felt like whispers of love now seemed like carefully constructed traps, designed to manipulate her trust and affection. Her hands shook as she tried to piece together how someone could spend months fabricating a life so convincingly. The illusion was gone. The man she thought she knew, the fiancé she dreamed of, had never existed. Determined to confront Ryan, Emma sent a final message, demanding honesty. Hours passed with no reply. Panic and grief intertwined as she imagined excuses, denials, and lies. But the silence was deafening. Each minute that ticked by confirmed the truth she had dreaded. Ryan had no intention of revealing himself. The man she thought she could trust had been playing a part for his own gain. Emma's chest felt heavy, as if the very air had thickened around her. She realized the only closure she could find would come from herself, from accepting the betrayal and reclaiming her agency. She began deleting messages, blocking accounts, and erasing the digital traces of Ryan's presence. With each deletion, a mixture of relief and grief coursed through her. The man who had seemed so real was nothing but a shadow, and the life she had imagined with him evaporated. Emma felt raw, exposed, and painfully human. It was a moment of mourning, yes, but also a beginning. The painful reclamation of reality. She realized that the power Ryan held over her was never his. It had been in the trust and love she had freely given. Now, with the illusion gone, she could start to rebuild, cautiously, but with eyes open. In the aftermath, Emma reached out to Detective Harris, who had experience with online deception cases. Calm and reassuring, he guided her through steps to secure her accounts, verify identities, and report fraudulent activity. Speaking with him brought a measure of clarity and purpose. Emma realized that while her emotional wounds were real, she could now take concrete actions to prevent future manipulation. Trust, she learned, was a powerful force, but it had to be balanced with vigilance. Emma spent the night reflecting, journaling every emotion, every memory, and every lesson. The betrayal had left scars, but it had also left her with insight. She resolved to trust again, but cautiously. and to value herself above the illusions others created. The journey ahead would be slow and painful at times, but Emma felt the first flickers of strength. The digital ghost of Ryan Cole no longer had power over her heart. In the quiet darkness of her apartment, she exhaled, allowing herself to feel both sorrow and resilience. The nightmare had ended, and the work of rebuilding had begun. Days passed slowly, each one heavy with reflection. Emma revisited every memory, every conversation, every imagined moment with Ryan. The grief was sharp, almost physical, but it was accompanied by a dawning clarity. She had been deceived, yes, but not powerless. Each tear she shed was a step toward reclaiming her heart, and each memory she confronted became a lesson in trust and vigilance. She began to understand the depth of her own resilience, the capacity to endure and recover from deception that had once seemed insurmountable. Emma began reconnecting with friends and family, sharing parts of her experience cautiously. Sophie stayed by her side, providing support without judgment. Conversations were slow at first, punctuated with pauses and lingering emotions. Yet each interaction reminded Emma that the world outside her digital cocoon was real and tangible, and that genuine connection, though vulnerable, was possible. Trust could be rebuilt. Not easily, and not quickly, but with care and awareness. She reflected on what had drawn her to Ryan's persona: loneliness, longing, and hope. These vulnerabilities were not weaknesses, but parts of her humanity. Emma resolved to honor them while protecting herself from manipulation. She researched online deception, educating herself about catfishing and psychological manipulation. Each new fact reinforced her awareness and strengthened her resolve. Knowledge, she realized, was a shield as powerful as any hope she had once placed in another person. Slowly, Emma began finding joy in small things. Morning coffee on the balcony, a walk in the park, laughing with friends. The shadows of Ryan's illusion remained, but they no longer dictated her emotions. Life regained color and texture, and she recognized her own strength in surviving betrayal. Resilience had replaced naivety. And while love would come again in its own time, Emma now understood that her own heart was her first priority. Emma closed her journal and looked out the window, city lights fading in the morning glow. She had been deceived, hurt, and shaken to the core, but she had emerged wiser and stronger. The experience had left scars, but also insight. She understood the delicate balance between trust and caution, hope and realism. Emma's heart, though tender, was resilient. She was ready to engage with the world again, fully present, with eyes wide open, carrying the lessons of deception not as a burden, but as armor for the future. Even after reclaiming her life, the memory of Ryan lingered, a ghost in her mind that whispered of vulnerability and misplaced trust. Emma revisited the timeline of their interactions, documenting every message, every fabricated photo, every inconsistency. She realized the scope of manipulation she had endured. The experience left a lasting imprint, but Emma now viewed it with analytical clarity instead of raw emotion. Understanding the tactics of deception gave her a sense of control. Knowledge replaced fear, and reflection replaced grief. She was no longer a passive victim of illusion. She was an observer, learning and preparing to protect herself and others. Emma began writing her story online, anonymously at first, sharing her experience with catfishing and online manipulation. The response was immediate. Messages from strangers who had been deceived, comments from those seeking guidance, and encouragement from readers who resonated with her cautionary tale. Telling her story became cathartic. The pain of betrayal transformed into purpose. Emma realized that by sharing her experience, she could prevent others from falling prey to similar illusions and turn personal trauma into collective awareness. Through forums and social media, Emma connected with others who had experienced online deception. They shared advice, resources, and support. Emma offered guidance from the perspective of someone who had lived it firsthand, warning against the subtle traps of charm and trust exploited by catfishers. Her words carried weight because they came from vulnerability tempered with reflection. She began to feel a sense of agency that had been missing when she was trapped in the illusion of Ryan. Empowerment was no longer abstract. It was active and tangible. Emma's journey extended beyond personal healing into advocacy. She researched online safety campaigns, collaborated with organizations that educated the public about digital deception, and spoke at small workshops. She found strength in transforming trauma into action. Each person she helped, each story she validated, reaffirmed her resilience. The past could not be erased, but it could fuel growth and vigilance. Emma's voice, once muted by grief, now resonated with authority, compassion, and experience. Emma reflected on the journey from hope to deception, grief to empowerment. The digital illusion that had once ensnared her now stood as a stark reminder of both vulnerability and strength. She recognized her growth, a deeper understanding of human behavior, resilience in the face of betrayal, and the capacity to educate and protect others. Though scars remained, Emma embraced the lessons and moved forward with wisdom, cautious optimism, and a newfound sense of agency. She was no longer defined by the deceit she endured, but by the strength she cultivated from it. Emma revisited the memories she had once cherished with Ryan, acknowledging them not as lies, but as experiences that shaped her growth. The love she thought she felt had been a projection of hope and vulnerability, but the lessons were real. She allowed herself to mourn the illusion fully, giving voice to her grief in her journal. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of clarity. Acknowledging pain did not mean surrendering to it, and understanding the past was the key to reclaiming the future. Emma met Sophie at a quiet cafe, the conversation flowing easily this time. They laughed, reminisced, and discussed the future. Emma realized that relationships grounded in honesty, empathy, and presence were far stronger than the fleeting illusions of online fantasy. The support of her friends, once background noise, had become her anchor. In Sophie's company, Emma felt safe, empowered, and ready to engage with the world on her own terms. Emma walked through the park at dusk, breathing deeply, feeling the cool air brush her face. Every step reminded her that she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware. She carried scars, yes, but also a sense of victory. The knowledge that she could survive deception, reclaim her heart, and make choices informed by experience rather than blind trust. For the first time in a long while, she felt a lightness, an almost imperceptible freedom. Emma paused at a bridge, gazing at the flowing water below, contemplating the journey she had survived. The river moved steadily, indifferent yet enduring, a mirror of life's capacity to carry her forward. She realized that the future was hers to shape, and that wisdom gained from betrayal was a tool, not a weight. With newfound clarity and courage, Emma felt ready to embrace life fully, her heart open yet discerning, her mind alert yet free from the shadows of illusion. The city lights twinkled as evening settled in, and Emma felt a quiet contentment she hadn't known in months. The deception that had once ensnared her heart no longer held power. She had emerged resilient, enlightened, and grounded in the reality of her own strength. As she walked home, she embraced the unknown with cautious optimism, carrying the lessons of the past as guidance. Her journey through betrayal had ended, but a new chapter, one of trust, awareness, and self-empowerment, had just begun. Emma smiled softly, feeling the weight of illusion lift, replaced by clarity and hope.